Other interesting political news, you have the CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra, having an interview. And without further ado, it is already a little bit disappointing from an interview perspective. How pathetic. This reporter, if you can call him a reporter from CNBC, he didn't even suit up, as all men should. Now, in his credit, he is wearing a tie. Looks like even Mary suited up, which is a controversial thing in and of itself, I know. And I guess for the record, let me know, would you want me to break down the salaries of the big three? I was thinking about doing that over the past couple of days as the controversy boils to the surface. It seems like a big point of contention. A lot of people are upset with the disparity between the executive pay and the entry-level job pay and the mid-level job pay. Let me know if you want. I could take a look at the 10Ks, financial statements for the companies. Would that be of interest to you? Again, let me know how I can make the show better, in addition to the things I'm constantly trying to work on, which is speaking slower and, of course, enunciating more. Two things that I'm constantly trying to get better at, and I appreciate you letting that come to the surface in the comments, so I realize it's still something I need to work on to make the show better for everyone. So without further ado, I will go ahead and I will start the interview.
Hey, Joe. Mary, thank you for joining us. Mary Barra, Chair and CEO of General Motors. Strike was called at midnight. What's your reaction initially? And I know you knew this was coming, but what's your reaction?
Well, you know, Phil, our team has been working since July 18th to bargain in good faith. We've had over 1,000 demands. I'm extremely frustrated and disappointed. We don't need to be on strike right now. You know, we put a historic offer on the table that not only has very significant gross wage increases, you know, total through the contract, over 20%, that compounded is 21%, but we also have job security. We maintain.
I wish when I worked at corporate America, I can get those type of raises. Again, depending on your industry, that's very rare. And again, this is a 4-year contract. So as you said, compound would be 21%. Now, in the beginning, the UAW was demanding 40%, which again, if you take the 10 things the UAW wanted, it was $80 billion per of the big three over the 4-year contract, which when you break down in a per employee basis, would be $420,000 per year per employee. And again, I realize that includes pensions and not kickbacks, but benefits for retirees. But still, when you're looking at cost allocation, traditionally you look at the people who are still working at the company who are generating profits. So that's how I'm trying to keep this as transparent as possible and give you as much data as possible. And let me know how I can do a little bit better.
World-class healthcare. There's so many aspects of this, of the offer we have.
And again, full transparency, the UAW wanted 40%. They did counter right before the strike. They did go down to 36%. So they did make a concession, albeit a negligible one, physically speaking, but they did make a concession on their end.
Table that I think really is going to resonate with our employees. So we didn't need to be here.
You said frustrated. I sense there's a disconnect between the automakers and their negotiations with the UAW that we haven't seen in the past. There's always contentious.
I'm not laughing at the talk, although perhaps some will become comical. I'm looking, they brought up a stock chart at General Motors. They're still about $33 a share. You look at the 5-year trend of the stock, it's about even. It's not that great. So the shareholders are not happy. They get little dividends, but again, you want the company to grow over time. And their profits, they are there, don't get me wrong, they're making profits, but they still have the long-term debt. And they're going to kind of like roll out, if they're a casino, they're betting it all on EV. For better or worse, I would argue worse, because kind of like an investment portfolio, I kind of prefer a diverse portfolio. That's why typically you invest in multiple areas of the economy, but they want to go all EV. And again, that's not their core competency. That's Tesla's. So they're choosing to go against the dominant technology company, being a traditional automotive company. I'm glad they invested about $928 million into developing the new V8 platform, but again, that dwarfs the budget that they put into EVs. So they are prudent enough to still make gas engines for the V8 for the trucks, which is where they make the current profit margins to fuel the company. But nevertheless, partially digress.
Discussions during these things, and sometimes there's a strike, but something seems to be different this time around. What's changed here?
Well, every negotiation takes on, the personality of the leader who's running, from a UAW perspective, as well as what the situational issues are of the time. But, I think the key in any of this is to get to the table, talk through the issues. And that's what we've been working to do since this began. And again, we had over 1,000 demands. You've got to work through each one of those. That's part of the process. So we've been working very hard. We've been working to problem solve.
I can't imagine how much of a pain that is for all those accountants. Don't get me wrong, this is their job, but imagine having 1,000 demands and trying to figure out the fiscal impact on the company over the 4 years of the contract. Hopefully they have someone in IT making a software to do that for them, but that's not an insignificant task.
And we're going to continue to do that. We're there now and ready to keep going.
You've made 4 offers. How many offers do you think it's going to take? And at 20%, how much higher can you go?
Well, I think we have a very generous offer on the table right now. It's historic. From a wage increase perspective, it's the most significant offer we've had on the table in our 115-year history. So, I'm not going to bargain in the press, but, we need to get there fast because this is not good for our employees. It's not good for the communities, their families. And for every GM job, there's 6 other jobs in the economy that depend on us running. So we got to get back to work.
If they start striking at other GM facilities, how much will it hurt the bottom line? How quickly will it hit the bottom line?
Well, we're in the business of making cars, trucks, and crossovers. So it can, depending on the length in which plants, it can have an immediate effect.
They better have accountants on that right now. They should, again, you don't want to give them too much credit. I'm always questioning what they're doing, but they should have an interactive map with software where you can just click on, okay, that plant is closed for 2 weeks. What's the fiscal cost? They better have that because they're going to need it. I suspect this strike will go on for quite some time. I'm guessing it'll take 10 offers, but it might make more. There's a lot of unknowns, of course.
But we've been through this before. We've been through COVID. We've been through the semiconductor. We've got an incredible team who's been preparing. We're ready. We're going to do what's right. But this is not going to be positive from an industry perspective or for GM.
All of your plants, to a certain extent, are interconnected. Even though these are final assembly, Wentzville, what happens in Wentzville doesn't happen in a silo. And so the question becomes, if other plants are hit, and I'm talking separate from an engine and transmission that feeds all the plants, is there a ripple-on effect in terms of it adds to the complexity of managing the situation?
Absolutely. Because, a lot of our assembly plants also have contiguous stamping plants that may serve other plants. So, we've worked to have a very efficient manufacturing network. So, yes, even one plant is going to start to have impact.
Any chance we see a change in production? Separate. Obviously, Wentzville's not in production right now. But any sense that production, while it continues at the other plants, does it change?
We'll evaluate that. The team has already been looking at that, and we'll continue to do that and be very responsive. Our team knows how to manage this.
4 years ago, you went through this, but as I mentioned earlier, this does seem a little bit different. What's your sense in terms of how long this will go? Obviously, you'd love to resolve it tomorrow, but you've done this before. You know the rhythm and the cadence. What's your sense in terms of how long this strike may go?
I think the strike can get resolved very quickly. Again, we have a historic offer on the table, and from a job security perspective, we're unique in that we have work and products for every single one of our facilities. About more than 2 years ago, as we started to really plan the EV transformation, we made sure we had work for everyone. It's one of the reasons we designed in-house power units, and we've already started to allocate power units to our internal combustion engine plants. So this is something we've been working on for a long time to make sure we can bring everyone along. I think our GM team members who are represented have told me time and time again, job security is very important to them. How you get job security is making sure you have beautifully designed car, trucks, and crossovers that people want to buy, and we have those right now. All of our vehicles are in strong demand, both our ICE portfolio and our EV portfolio. So we got to get back to work so we don't lose ground.
I know you've been in touch with the White House. They're taking an active interest in what's happening here. What do you say to them, or what do they say to you about this situation?
Well, I've been very clear, and I've talked to many members of the administration as well as members of Congress. And, we're at the table. We're problem solving. We want to get this done. This will not be good for the economy overall, and again, for all the communities that are impacted from when a plant is in their city.
Mary Barra, Chair and CEO of General Motors, thanks for talking with us on a day where we're going to see what happens. No negotiations today. But we'll keep you guys updated in terms of what we see throughout the day and what we hear back from you.
how pathetic. He's being a CEO, and he's not even wearing a suit. You're meeting the CEO. It boggles the mind. I was gonna say I won't focus on this subject too much longer, but still pretty pathetic. You can't suit up for this interview. Ridiculous. Now, interestingly enough, you look at a lot of the comments, and most of them are, as the youth might say, ratioed her. Now, it looks like one of the comments said, it's from a very inspiring name, B376010. How inspirational of a name. Now, this person says, quote, nothing this woman nor most CEO do is worth $29 million a year. So this person gets an F for grammar, though they get an A+ for using the word nor, because it sounds kind of fancy, and I appreciate that. Now, that person got 42 likes, so not too bad. Now, another person by the name of Douglas Britton, 5966. This person said, quote, sad that her father worked at Pontiac as skilled trades. That good wage and benefits put her through school to get the education and skill to reach the top of GM. Guess she forgot where she came from, unquote. That person got 84 likes. Unfortunately, I wish YouTube would do this. We could see the ratio of likes versus dislikes for the comments. Again, I need to look into the third-party softwares. That there might be a tracker for that. But it looks like in terms of response to that, a lot of them were concurring with him. Though, interestingly enough, she's making an offer to them that's greater than ever before. Some might argue she's remembering that. Although, again, another issue is what happened to Pontiac? They died. Well, I would also blame them for killing awesome products like the Pontiac GTO, the Firebird, and they made it kind of a plain cookie-cutter brand, just slapped different badges on it. So there are many reasons, but one of the reasons GM drastically trimmed all their products in terms of the brands is because of 2009 bankruptcy. They got rid of a lot of great brands that people loved. Now they're down to 4 in the United States. I mean, you got Buick, which in terms of historical provenance, I appreciate because Buick was the first of GM. It was Buick and Oldsmobile combined when Billy Durant founded the company all those years ago. But nevertheless, the current lineup is Buick, Cadillac, GMC, and Chevrolet. Although, ironically enough, Chevrolet, people like to say, things about Americana. Chevrolet, apple pie, and baseball. Although Chevrolet is named after a Frenchman who's a race car driver. Though, interestingly enough, that's how Billy Durant he got kicked out from bankruptcy, teamed up with a French race car driver by the name of Louis Chevrolet. They actually started building cars to consumers, built that up so big, he bought GM back. So a very inspirational story, although sad ending, he went bankrupt again, and allegedly the last time we've seen in public was managing a bowling alley. So unfortunately, not a happy ending, but a good mid-story. Another one, top of the results, says Joshua 9828. This person says, quote, GM should have taken these negotiations more seriously weeks ago instead of waiting until the last few days, unquote. That person got 138 likes. Though, interestingly enough, it sounds like the negotiations were going back and forth for quite some time. Though, contradictory reports as well, you also had the interesting lawsuits. Specifically, I believe it was GM and Chrysler, where the UAW was complaining that they weren't getting back to them quickly enough. So it'd be interesting to see the data. I wish there was. Let me know if you have an article that gives you maybe a text message thread or some reference points where we could find out when did GM get these 1,000 asks from the UAW in terms of time frequency. Was that all the last minute, or I think there's a disconnect in terms of, well, when did they really start negotiating? The offer was months ago. So again, more data the better. Let me know if you have additional data so I can review and then further report upon. Again, trying to enunciate more. In theory, getting better each time. Now, another person says, by the name of the Tonus, says, quote, this is like secession, scripted, trying to get out ahead of the rest of negative press. It's an absolute theater. Go workers, unquote. Now, this person got 100 likes. So it looks like overall, interesting, and yeah, it looks like overall the comments are not so pleased. So it'll be interesting to see. Let me see here. And I was going to say. There's not very. You know, it's bad when I'm scrolling trying to find a popular comment or a positive comment, and it is quite difficult to say the least. Not too similar from some of my videos. Nevertheless, I always appreciate the feedback as long as it's constructive, and of course, more data the better. So it'll be interesting to see, will the sentiment change? And it is fascinating to see the difference. Maybe it's the audience, or be interesting in the demographics of people who watch YouTube versus LinkedIn versus Facebook. It seems like you do see some differences on LinkedIn. I did some polls, and it seemed like the comments were, I want to say maybe 60-40 ratio of more people supporting the company versus the UAW. Then on Facebook, it seemed about 50-50. Now, granted, this is a very specific video, but it'd be interesting to see what are the variables that may contribute to the different perspectives. Again, more data the better. Maybe I'll be able to find it. I'll have to take a look. Thank you, everyone, so much for taking the time to tune in today. Also, I know we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of September, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to take the time to like and comment the video. I really appreciate your feedback, whether you're on the front line of the UAW or in the corporate office at Ford. Your feedback makes the show much more interesting and it's able to make me update the videos with even more data, and it really helps it, I think, make a better experience. And also, the feedback improves the show because thanks to the comments, I realize I need to actually work on my enunciation as well as my articulation and slowing down a little bit when I'm speaking. So together, we're going to make the show together that much better, and I greatly appreciate your participants. Also, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.